Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Anime Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Matt, alongside my co-host, Lance. As per our tradition, every episode we start with an adult beverage of choice. Today we're doing something a little bit different because it's an early morning record time. So I am going to be doing a Mimosa screwdriver mix where I've got some vodka and some champagne in with some orange juice. I'm going to call it Lance's Special because that's kind of what he made for me.
Yeah, I just like spiking it to make it a little bit stronger.
Yeah, no complaints on my end, at least. Lance, what about you? What are you drinking?
I had started earlier with a Bloody Mary, and now I am currently working on a screwdriver, and I've got a Bud Light in reserves.
Yeah, because you're almost done with that screwdriver. Yeah. Just like I have a Spotted Cow to continue with mine, because for our listeners, I mean, it's noon, so we're getting our day started off right.
Yep.
But Lance, can you kind of let us know about this episode?
So today we are covering Tomodachi Game, and I'm going to steal the synopsis right from myanimelist.net, and they say, high school student Yuichi Katagiri cherishes his close friends composed of 4 classmates. However, when the funds for the upcoming school trip are stolen, the incident causes Shiho and Makoto, who had been tasked with collecting the money, to distance themselves from the rest of their class. Soon after, Yuichi and his friends are deceived into meeting up and knocked unconsciously by an unknown assailant. After waking, the group finds themselves confined into a white room with controversial figure Manabu, who reveals that one of the 5 has gathered them together to clear their personal debt of 20 million yen. To pay off that amount, they must participate in a variety of psychological games that will test their true nature of their friendship and humanity. Distressed and isolated from the outside world, Yuichi and his friends need to cooperate to complete the games. But as their concealed feelings and problematic past begin to surface, their seemingly unbreakable bond may soon shatter into irreparable pieces. And again, that was from myanimelist.net.
Yeah, that 20 million is a huge one. We do find out the source of the debts. Lance, before we really get into this episode, can you give us that Lance's lessons?
Today's Lance's Lessons is going to be the Japanese word for friends, and that is Tomodachi. Stealing this one right from the title. Tomodachi is made up of 2 different characters, Tomo meaning friend, Dachi meaning plural. So Tomodachi, friends, multiple friends, plural. There we go. And clearly this is a game where friends have to apparently work together to try to get their debts back down to 0. So
while spilling all of their deepest, darkest secrets.
Right. So much of their personal past come to light and really brings in the psychological part of this show.
Yeah, this show was absolutely a psychological thriller type of show. Was not expecting it, but after the first episode, I was all in.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was like I started reading the manga right away. Usually I give myself like a couple days break to just kind of breathe for a second before I really get into it again. Because, I mean, when you're just constantly cycling after cycling, you know, you got to give your mind a little bit of a break. But on this one, I was like, oh, fuck, okay, I got to know what's going on. And I wanted to know everything right away. This show was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Watching the show gave me vibes of like Death Note and Code Geass, just in terms of like trying to suss out people and tactically figure out everything.
Yep.
Just in general.
Was it The Last of Us? That game with all the people?
Yeah, that's kind of why I said sus.
Yeah, all the unfaced people. Same type of vibe. So I was like, are you sure I did it? No, I think you did it. It's like, no, I didn't do it. You did it. And then just everybody kind of infighting with each other. Mm-hmm. And even if everything points to that person, they're like, but did I do it? And you're like, oh shit, maybe not. And
you just gotta get in everyone else's head.
Oh yeah, because when
minor things to your advantage if you can.
And our main character in this absolutely can play with people's emotions. Yuichi. Mm-hmm. Just knows how to mind fuck everyone.
Yeah, they really tried to give him the personality of like he can just plan 2 steps ahead of you. He's already had a plan in motion before you even had a plan to begin with.
And as we find out in the second game, where it's like he is able to use process of elimination to bait the traitor into basically displaying themselves on who betrayed everyone.
Yeah, we should probably go in order of these games.
Yep.
And then let's just go in order.
Yeah, we can definitely go in order.
Ooh, actually, before we do that, let's talk about the debts that were taken so that people are on the same page about the debts between the game and the debts between, or not necessarily the debts, but how much money was taken from the classmates.
So for the classmates, for anyone who doesn't remember, everyone within the class needed to give 70,000 yen to participate in this field trip.
Which was like, what, $550 US?
I'm seeing as of April 15th, it's $523. Okay. So really close. So, which I think was 2 million yen in total for the class. And if you want to do the math, we're talking about 29 students in this class
participated in this group trip.
Yep. I think they did say it was optional. So, you might have a couple students that just decided, that 70,000 yen is just too much. I'm not going to do it. I want to get I don't know. I just didn't want to participate for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And then you had the 2 million yen for the class, which was taken, and that was a down payment to play the game. Is it what they called it, kind of thing?
Essentially, yeah. That's what it was used. Yeah, because they said it was non-refundable if they all wanted to quit.
Yeah. So that was, or the entry fee, excuse me. That's probably the better way to say it. The entry fee to pay to play the game, and then one of the individuals had 20 million yen in debt, which was around $150,000 in debt, which we come to find out it is Taiju because of the last Tomodachi game that he got involved in.
You mean Tenji?
Tenji, excuse me. It was Tenji because of the last Tomodachi game that he got involved in because of his other friends, which is how he knows about Tomodachi Game to begin with. Mm-hmm. And you find out that it is Shibe. His father is also 20 million in yen or something like that.
In combination of the two, like between Tenji's debt and Shibe's father, I would imagine.
I'm thinking just Shibe's father. I thought Shibe's father was 20 million in yen, or 20 million in debt as well.
Oh, maybe. Because they made it sound like one single person had this debt and everybody needed to work together. So maybe Tenji still has his debts, and maybe that's why he also kind of started this whole process himself. But then we found out that Shibe had a much larger debt, and they're all working together to play for that one.
Well, it's Shibe's father who, because he died, Shibe got basically given said debt. But yes, Tenji had the 20 million debt for the previous Tomodachi game, and I'm trying to remember how much Shinji's father had debt. Shibe, excuse me.
Yeah, Shinji's the father's name.
Yes.
You can say Shinji Shiba. Wait, that's not true because Shiba.
It's Shibe. Makoto. After a quick search, I was able to find Makoto's father's total debt, who was given to Makoto, and that was 500 million yen.
Okay, so that's a lot more than the 2 million, right?
Yes, obviously. If we wanted to do a quick, that is $3.7 million.
Huh. That's a lot of money to owe somebody.
That's a lot of money for a, first year high school student? Is that?
Yeah, especially that's going to be dumped on him. Sounds like Shibe is not going to be getting out of Tomodachi Game for quite a while.
Yeah, seriously. Hopefully they can win so all his debt can go away. I don't even think that's how Tomodachi Game works either. You could win and still lose money, can't you?
Oh, yeah, you can come out with even more debt than you started with.
I don't think you're going to win, though. So, I guess I need to re-listen to that, because if you win the game, all of the games, could you potentially still have debt, or do you get your debt erased?
Maybe throughout the process, individuals could owe a certain amount of debt, but maybe the individuals who complete the entire game are debt free.
Okay.
So, because we learned that throughout the game, you can increase and decrease your debts as it goes.
Yep.
And maybe you don't even have to complete the full game. Maybe you can just magically get debt free.
Yep.
But maybe if your debt is as large as Shibei's father's debt,
Yep.
maybe you do have to complete the entire game, and it just gets more and more difficult as things progress.
Well, we're noticing that it's getting significantly more difficult as things are progressing. Because, I mean, the first game, to be completely honest, is kind of easy. You have to rely on your individual teammates to be
Selfless.
And then you can pass the game super easy because all they needed to do was get one yes answer for everybody.
Out of 5 rounds, everybody just needed to agree once.
Yep.
That was going to be the answer.
Yeah, so I guess let's talk about the first game, and that was this coin game that if
Minority.
Well, yeah, we could say that. So the minority wins the game. So if one...
Oh, sorry, I said that because according to his rules, the movement of the coin favors the minority vote.
Yes. So if unanimous, everybody votes unanimously yes or no, depends, then the coin will move in yes or no. And if one individual of the 5 votes the opposite of everybody else, it'll move towards that, towards the whatever the minority decides. One thing I just thought of is, well, couldn't you have just picked something that either A, not everybody knows, so that you could make them pick yes because they don't know that it's yes?
Oh.
So basically trick the individual into saying yes.
That would have probably been a better one. Let's just say the majority would have assumed the answer would have been no. Because the only way to win this game is if everyone said yes.
Yep.
So if the majority of people
say no,
knew no, yep, but it was such a vague or unknown kind of a question that 1 or 2 people might just guess yes,
yep,
then the minority would have been pushed to yes, and they would have won the game.
Because the end goal to the game was to have one round where the coin landed on yes.
Correct. Real quick, the name of the game was Kokiri.
Kokiri. Yes, and they had that little kokiri, yada, yada, yada thing. It's very
spiritual.
Well, I was going to say Japanese game like.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you ever watch a video of them doing a Japanese game, it sounds very much like what you would expect.
Yeah.
And then you had was it a cat with the hands that went up or down?
I think it was a cat or a raccoon, some animal, yeah.
Yeah. So if it was in unanimous, the cat would have its arms up, and if it was not a unanimous vote, the cat would move its arms down.
Unanimous in terms of wherever the minority chose, because wherever the coin landed.
Yeah, but I'm talking strictly the cat, because the cat would only have its hands up if everybody had the same vote.
Oh, would it?
Yep.
Oh, I thought it only did that for the yes.
Nope. It was just if everybody agreed on the vote.
Okay. So maybe if that was the case, then our trick question kind of thing might have...
But that wouldn't have mattered because the vote would have still been yes, and that was the only circumstance to pass the game was a yes vote.
Right.
And, well, I kind of want to back up just a little bit further, just to kind of talk about these. After we finish... talking about game 1, I kind of want to back up a little bit and just kind of talk about the beginning, because I feel like that's important, is just knowing about these characters before we talk about the meat and potatoes of Tomodachi Game. So then you find out through the game that the questions are blank, which we didn't know about to begin with when they started the game.
Were all of them or just Yuichi's?
So all the questions, so the first 4 questions are the same, which was make your own question, get them to vote yes, essentially game's over, get them to vote no, and you cut half your debt.
Okay.
So the first 3, which are...
Was that a manga thing by chance? Because in the anime, they didn't say that point blank that the first 4 did have blank questions. It was only Yuichi's that was the obvious one because we were following him.
So... You kind of have to infer it, because when the game masters or administrators is what they call it, they talk about how the question will always look as if it says, get them to say yes, game is over. And then the no is written in ink that when it sees sunlight will eventually go away.
Okay.
So I am inferring, and when Tenji talks about his debt, he had less debt because of that scenario, and you had Shiho's debt didn't match with what she was saying. So her debt had to have been cut in half for the total debt to equal out.
Right. But that still doesn't answer if they made up their question to begin with, though.
It's me inferring it and going from what I know about the individual debt totals.
Okay.
So I guess that's a manga thing because they break down the debt totals a little bit more, saying Shiho's debt can't be right because if that was the case, then they should be at... I think it was like 12.6 million, not 10.6 million, because she talked about how her debt was actually, was it like 6 million yen after the end of the first game?
Yeah, because she accidentally spoke.
Because she said her noise, they counted it as words, so then it was her speaking, so they doubled her debt, and basically they kept going on from there. But then if you do the math, they couldn't have been in 10 million yen debt with what we know of Yuichi's and Tenji's debts. And that's really like, they basically did the math. They're like, okay, you're in this debt. And the, who is the game master guy? Manabu tells them their debt. Like, he doesn't lie about their debt.
The total debt.
They are in 10 million yen debt. So doing your typical subtraction, you can figure out that Shiho is lying about her debt, which means she did not actually get punished in the first game for her making a noise.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't catch that part. Kind of just took her word for it in the beginning after he was tying his shoe conversation. And
they talked about it in the cave that they were in for 3 days.
Right.
I will say, because I read it, I might have been either just a little more ingrained, easier to catch, or that was a difference that I just didn't like. I just assumed sometimes, you just kind of miss out on if you read it beforehand. Mm-hmm. Like, I might have just missed out on them not actually talking about it. But if not, here's part of your manga mentions, I guess. So, yes, Shiho had lied about her debt, her total debts in game 1.
Okay. So she didn't double, she probably halved it.
Yep, she halved it, which means that she had a card that said the same thing, Tenji had a card that said the same thing, and Makoto... Do we want to call him Makoto, or do we want to call him Shibe?
The English anime referred to him as Shibe.
Okay, let's call him Shibe. Makes it easier, goes with what the dub says... Mm-hmm. And we can continue on from there. So Shibe also's card did the same thing. Because if 2 out of 3 did the same thing, I'm going to say all 4 of them said the same thing. Or 3 out of 4 said the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Which brings into question the 5th one. If you're going to be questioning why wasn't the last one an open-ended question. And that was because the moderators very specifically brought up that, like, if this question was the first question, which was, are we always going to remain friends? If that was the first question to be brought up, everyone would have automatically said yes. But if it's the last one after being confusing, it would have been...
Kokorogi, she had the same question. She just didn't have the option of going no and having her debt. Like, that's the only difference between the first 4 and the last one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they're all the same question minus the option at the end.
Oh, I thought it was I thought that one was very strategically placed there.
No, so they use that as an example, because then if somebody were to have said that to begin with, then it starts really breaking down the trust between all the friends. So if you were to say that in the beginning, then of course everybody has to say yes, because then it gets suspicious. Mm-hmm. Instead of just as Yuichi, I keep want to call him Yorichi, Yorichi from Bleach, and that's not the case. It's Yuichi. And just as he had said, where it's like, somebody might have gotten confused or been like, no, this can't be, this has to be a trick. So it makes us less suspicious. So the first game was kind of a
soft intro.
Yeah, kind of a soft. That's a very good way to put it, because you really see Yuichi's like evil side at the end of the game, where he's just kind of like, fuck it, I don't care, I am gonna do whatever I need to do and want to do. And you get to see his evil side towards the end of the game.
Right. Yeah, because that's when he starts to really, he puts himself in danger in terms of debt.
Yep.
But that danger is worth it to reveal like who's the asshole behind everything.
Yeah, and he's more like, he gets that face where it's like, all right, try me, see what happens.
Right.
And
that's a fun look. I like when they kind of do that.
Yes, he very menacing. That's probably a good way to put it. So I really liked just the dark, random aspects to Yuichi.
Right, because they made us feel throughout the series, or at least throughout the season, that he's always having to choose between friends and money.
Yep.
And we see him bounce back and forth in ways, but like in the end, it's always about trying to protect someone as a friend.
Yeah, his mother figure person, it's not his mother.
Right.
But just somebody that he deemed worthy of calling a mother, was like, hey, I understand that money is important, but friends are the most important thing. And whoever that old man is, I can't wait to find out who he is, was like, no, money is the most important thing.
Right.
So hopefully in season 2, we get to kind of get a little bit more background on Yuichi. I don't know. That's going to be a conversation for later.
Yep, definitely.
But just, I'm hoping we get more background on Yuichi, because man, does he do dark good.
Yeah, definitely.
And one thing, so as I had said earlier, I want to really get back into the beginning of the season, because they kind of draw you in and be like, all right, no, these are just kids. There can't be anything evil or just kind of maniacal about these,
seemingly normal kids.
First-year high school students. Because, like, Yuichi has to work extra shifts to be able to afford this 70,000 yen to go on this class trip. Shiho, her father is a police officer. Yes.
Probably.
Yes. Her father is a they call a police officer. So very, strong sense of justice and following the rules. Everybody's got to follow the rules. She is also the vice president of the class.
Something important. I mean, she was in charge of everybody's money, so...
She was in charge of everybody's money.
Maybe the treasurer or something.
Maybe. All I remember is that she was the one handling everybody's money, because she was also the one that lost everybody's money. Tenji was like this kind of want to call him a super nerd, where he's just...
At least looked like it, yeah.
Yeah, he was your typical, like, I know better than you as I'm pushing up my glasses kind of face.
Yeah.
He reminded me a lot of the guy from My Hero Academia. The fast one, jet legs. Oh man, drawing a blank on his name. As soon as I see it, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, that's right, Ida. Yes. Reminds me a lot of Ida, and also, strong sense of justice. Kind of nothing ever rattles me because I'm so smart. I see everything
right
at all times. And then you have Shibe, who's your typical rich kid, where he's like, if I ever have a problem, I'll just throw some money at it and it'll go away.
Exactly.
And then you have Kokorogi, who's this kind of shy, innocent-looking individual who...
I'm going to refer to her as Yutari.
Yutari? Okay.
Kokorogi is her last name.
Yep.
I know they do bounce back and forth between calling her first and her family name.
Yes.
But I know Yuichi calls her Yutari. Oh, you know what? Can't even say that. I just personally feel like I've heard Yutari more often than Kokorogi.
Well, we can call her Yutari. That's fine.
Okay.
So she is the shy individual who has a thing for... Yutari had a thing for Yuichi without actually ever saying she had a thing for him until later on when Shiho is like, oh yeah, I'm actually like you. And then, you get this love triangle thing. So, but she's just very timid, which makes all of the secrets that come out in game 2 much more like of a shock. because all these characters, you're like, okay, no, they're just high school students. Like, come on, there's nothing. They don't have anything going on between them. And then you get these super like, oh God, I can't believe that just happened kind of moments.
Yeah, all these innocent kids all of a sudden have something shocking behind them.
Yep. And so the show did a very good job portraying these students as basically nothing's wrong with them. Their friendship is an unbreakable bond, and we find out that is not the case.
No, everyone has their secrets.
Yes. So the show did a really good job, and I cannot wait to keep going. But let's kind of talk about game number 2 then.
Game number 2 was called Sugoroku.
Sugoroku. I had never heard of that game. I'm assuming you've never heard of that game.
No, I think these are all going to be maybe Japanese games that are probably more familiar in their culture than ours. Yeah, I would
probably agree with that. Just to kind of give our listeners a reminder. So basically you kind of, what's the point? You like tell secrets and...
Well, the preface behind the Sugoroku was the backbiting that I'm seeing right here. But
yes,
telling secrets to make other people move further in the board game.
Yeah, and is that the whole purpose of the game? Like, was that the original purpose of the game? Is kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Maybe it... From my first impression you just get to find out more about your friends, maybe traditionally in a good way, but in this way, maybe in this game, if you reveal the bad stuff, then you force someone else to move.
So it says students prepare 1 game piece per pair and put it in a start box as a substitute for dice. They play rock, paper, scissors. The winner advances piece 5 places. And for a paper win, 2 spaces for a scissors win, and 1 space for a rock win. Basically, it's just kind of a board game. So you just kind of go through it, but instead of playing rock, paper, scissors, you play with secrets.
Okay.
Which explains why, if they deem the secret to be more or less worthy, or not worthy, but just whoever has the most juicy secret, that individual that got their secret exposed moves the most spaces, and everybody else moves a certain number of other spaces. Kind of just a play on the game, which is all it really is.
Yeah, and what it really came down to was the winner or loser, however you want to look at it, the one who finishes the game first, was the one that was going to accumulate all the debt. And you can put all that debt on one individual, or you can continue to work as a team and continue to share that debt. And as we find out throughout the series, if they were to have taken it one step by one step, it would have evened out and nothing would have changed, and it would have ultimately just been a big waste of a game.
Kind of.
If they played by blanks.
Yeah, if they had played together without essentially stabbing each other in the back. It would have been a wash, and they would have moved through onto the next game with a less debt, because they said if they win, then their debt gets brought down. I think it's 200,000 yen or something like that, or 2 million yen divided by the 5 of them or something like that.
I don't know if they would have minused anything off the end, because winnings and losings would have been a wash, but I think maybe.
So every time they win a game, they get some of their debt eliminated. So that's what happened in the first game. Is I think it was, we'll say, 1 million yen divided by the 5 of them. So everybody got 200,000 yen eliminated from their debt and continued on their total debt, because from what we remember is everybody got the 20 million yen, and then it was divided by accepting to play the game. The 20 million yen that the one individual had was divided between the 5 of them and given 5 million yen total debt between the 5 of them. 4 million yen. So it was the 5 of them split that 20 million yen, and we're now 4 million yen in debts. So in the first game, they all had 4 million yen debt. And then after the game, because the 4 of the first The first 4 that went all got no. And then you had Yuichi, who spoke, which was against one of the rules. So he had his debt doubled, bringing him back to 4 billion yen. And then he got is either 200,000 yen or 400,000 yen. I don't remember exactly what it was. Erased for winning the game. So we'll just say, I think
that's right, because he doubled, and then because they won, they basically made him back to 0, or like put him back at the base.
Yeah, he lost a little bit of debt after the win. So by winning each game, you do lose some debt.
Right.
I think it's 400,000. So I think you lose 2 million yen every time you win a game. And then you can gain or lose extra depending on the rules of the game.
Right.
And so because the second game worked, if they would have all worked together, then they would have all lost the 400,000 yen on top of without gaining any extra debts during the game. But as we know, that's not what happened. A lot of backstabbing, you could say, or at least what it appeared to be, backstabbing, spilling of secrets happened. I'm kind of curious, do you have a secret that was the most like, oh my god, I couldn't believe that happened, or that was a secret moment?
The most crazy one was Yutari being a quote-unquote escort.
Yes. They call her a prostitute. She sold herself to essentially accompanying this older gentleman. Older compared to her because she was in middle school.
At the time, yeah.
Yeah. So, and the only reason why she did that was because she was getting bullied and found out that if she just paid off these people, they would be nice to her.
Right. So, yeah, that was why that threw me off, was because a middle schooler going through all this shit.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it was the first time I had seen an episode on Crunchyroll being a trigger warning, I think is what they called it.
Oh, yeah, they did trigger warning in the beginning of that episode. I think that's the first time I've ever seen a warning, too.
So, I will say there's no visual things. They just make reference to what was about to happen. Nothing actually happened to her. So if there's anybody who, skipped the episode because they were afraid they were going to see something, you don't see anything. They just make reference to it. So if you want to go back and actually watch it, you should be okay. Now, if you skipped it because of those, you do have a trigger and you can't watch that stuff, just skip it. You're not really missing anything other than she said she sold herself in a manner of she basically allowed this guy to pay her to go on dates.
Yeah, whether it was dinners, karaoke, and then eventually led to pictures.
Yeah, cosplay, pictures, and then
the final straw was touching, so that's when she quit.
Yeah, he wanted to touch her, and she didn't want it, and she quit. I will agree. That was probably my most like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. Again, she seems very shy, and it came out of nowhere. As far as betrayal was concerned, oh man, besides that, I'm going to go off of things that people didn't come forth with on themselves. So I'm not going to say Yuichi being the one that killed people, because that would probably be the second most like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened.
Right.
Moments. So I guess the other one, oh man, there was only a handful of betrayals that really happened, because there were a couple in the beginning and then they all stopped.
Yeah, there wasn't too much more. I mean, we find out that Shibei's father is some scumbag who owes a lot of money, did a lot of bad things.
Oh, that's something that I wanted to talk about. If you watch that episode, you see that Yutari makes a moment where she's like, wait, I know that guy kind of face.
Oh, really?
So, do you think that it was Shibei's father that hired Yutari?
Oh, interesting. I mean, to keep interest very high, yeah, I would like to see that one come to play.
I could see that happening. So if you watch that episode over again, when Shibei's father is brought to life where he's under all these scandals, Yutari makes a face where she's like, wait a second, where it almost looks like she knows who that guy is without actually because I don't think she knows who his father is.
Right. But so, she definitely recognizes him as if maybe he was one of the people that paid her.
Yes. So I'm wondering if she was paid by Shibei's father to accompany him.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see that one.
I'll tell you right now, I know nothing. The manga does not be like, oh my God, I can't believe I know him. Like, they don't even make a mention that they go hand in hand. But I'm wondering if, because the manga is further than the anime, where if the producers might have made a facial feature that kind of foreshadowed the future that we might not ever actually, like, we'll find out only through the game, but obviously Shibei's father is dead, so we can't, like, he's not going to say anything.
Right. Yeah, so I guess we'll see. As far as other people's secrets, I mean, Yutari, we already talked about her escorting past. Tenji, he really didn't have much other than he was a year ahead of everybody.
Yep, he's a year older than everybody. Shibei, we have he bathed with his mother until, oh man, like second year of middle school or something like that.
Something old enough, yeah.
Yeah, way too old to be bathing with your mother. Shiho, I think the only real thing was she wore men's boxers or something like that.
That's what's coming to my mind. That's all I got right now.
Well, I guess the other one was Shibei killing somebody.
The lie.
Yeah, the lie. It was a lie, but the lie of Shibei killing somebody is going to be the most memorable to me, because the other ones were kind of just like, I mean, I guess. Mm-hmm. But because there was one, because the Shiho underwear one, I mean, that kind of threw a wrench in Yutari's and Shiho's friendship, but it was all for show anyway. Mm-hmm. Tenji really didn't. We find out that he did that to himself to kind of quote unquote throw off the sense of him being the traitor. And Shibei, you got his bathing with his mother. Oh, and then Yuichi, you had the not bathing for like 2 weeks or whatever it was.
I think it was just 1 week, but still.
It was
another.
But that was just him. Let's be honest, he's poor. So
right, supposedly
valid.
I'm only saying that because of near the end of the season, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh, we can talk about that.
And then the other secrets that came out were really minor. Tenji spilling out that Shiho and Tenji used to have a relationship in the past.
Yep.
It's just smaller things. I can't even remember all the other small little things. It was so minute.
Yes. And
yeah, I mean, that kind of concludes what I remember for all these secrets.
Yeah, the secrets, besides the couple, like, oh my God, there weren't really anything too memorable. The other thing was where they had to prove their own innocence. So in Shibei's instance, he was said that he killed somebody, and they were like, well, I didn't do it. He's like, well, all right, prove you didn't kill anybody. He's like, well, I can't. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's impossible to prove you haven't killed somebody if you haven't killed. What are you going to do? Show everybody that you've ever known is still alive? Like, that's not...
And not even that. Like, not even that will prove, because you can just kill a random ass person.
Yeah, anybody you've ever been in contact with through not even intentionally coming in contact with somebody. It's impossible. You can't prove that you've never killed somebody.
Right.
So it's one of those things where you have to really pay attention to the rules of the game and how you can manipulate them in your own favor.
Mm-hmm. So to manipulate things in your favor is pretty much how we concluded this game to begin with.
Yep.
Which was Yuichi in the final round.
Yep.
Getting everybody to agree to lie about themselves.
Yep.
About saying, I'm the one who got us involved in this game.
Yep.
And there was going to be hard proof evidence of someone getting everybody involved because of the
administrators will know who got them involved. So then they can just be like, yep, I lied. And then they can just, so then when they say, hey, prove it, you can just be like, well, administrator, did I do that? Mm-hmm. Well, no, you didn't. All right, well, then it was a lie. And every person, minus Tenji, can say that and be truthful.
Right. And then that was going to be the big bang to get him to, one, expose himself and get himself further. Yep. But of course, we knew that wasn't going to make everybody be less of a loser or save Shiho in the final.
Yep.
And then Yuichi had his final awesome plan to expose that he lied earlier.
Yep.
And then lying about it allows you to jump ahead.
So the one of the rules were if you lied, your punishment was you got pushed one space past the person who is the furthest forward. So because Tenji and Yuichi both quote unquote lied, Yuichi actually did, then they got pushed further past Shiho, who was at the very end of the game. And that allowed for Yuichi and Tenji to move on to game 3.
Right.
Which Yuichi's plan was eventually to play the game 3 by himself because he wanted to protect his friends, and
Tenji knew that game 3 wasn't going to be playable by yourself.
That, and I think he wanted to make up to Yuichi for betraying everybody.
Yeah, I can see that too.
Because
he wanted to confront and explain himself.
Yeah, he basically wanted to give reason as to why he had done what he did. Yep.
But before we jump on to game 3, let's just take a quick break.
Need a little more spandex in your life? Tune into RangerCast, the first podcast devoted to Power Rangers and other Japanese superheroes. After 10 years adrift in a space dumpster, we are back with news, reviews, and special guests. Teleport to rangercast.net or summon us from your favorite podcast app. RangerCast is the most more phenomenal podcast on the web.
Hello, pardon the interruption. My name is Harrison from the Basement Bench, and you're hearing this because you enjoy anime and you're listening to the Anime Lounge. Now, if your enjoyment of anime crosses over into enjoying animation, well, then you should check out the Basement Binge, where currently we are celebrating the love of animation with Animation Hall of Fame, Volume 3. Looking back at what great animation is, looking ahead with newer animated movies coming out, including some great anime, including Makoto Shinskai's Suzumi coming out very soon. If you enjoy animation, come celebrate with us at the Basement Binge and a bunch of other movies that we like. You can find the Basement Binge wherever you get podcasts. Back to your regular scheduled program.
And now that we're back from our break, we can get into game 3, which is friendship survival tag kind of thing, or capture the flag.
What I'm seeing is friendship hide and seek.
Friendship hide and seek. That's what it is. Yes. Thank you. Basically, the concept of the game is you're going to have, if this was a full team of 5, you would have 4 seekers and 1 hider. The hider can't move anywhere, and the seekers can bring you food that is at the middle of the map. Food and water, excuse me. And you're basically up to your buddies to make sure you don't die.
Yeah, so this is just an intense game of hide and seek that can last days on days.
Infinite, really. So this game was kind of crazy. We do get another character that is involved in this game that we come to find out is a administrator. Do you remember her name off the top of your head?
Yeah, her name was Maria, and watching this made me question some things.
Okay.
Because when she gets introduced into the actual game, her hair is brown, and I was thinking the whole time, I wonder if that's that pink-haired girl. And now that I'm looking at the character sheet,
Yep,
it is 100% the same character. And it also adds to when the third game starts.
Yep.
We have. Okay, so the smaller pink-haired girl disappears, and then we still have that one lady, her name is Tsukino,
Yep.
who has her hair over her eyes, kind of looking like Tokyo Ghoul. And then we get introduced to another administrator who's blonde and who's watching over the other group that we come to find,
Yep.
our enemy team. So we see our girl Tsukino and Blondie like making bets on each other whose team's going to survive, and then Pinky is just gone. Pinky's gone because she's playing the game.
Yes.
So yes, it is the same girl. She's just involved right now.
Yeah. So Maria, she was there strictly to observe, because at the end of game 1 and the end of game 2, Yuichi kind of showed more of his true self, and they're like, all right, what is going on with this person? They called him a monster.
A couple adjectives to
Yep.
really describe his thought process. And
So they were very interested in Yuichi. Sukino and Maria were both very interested in who this person was. Maria was much more intrigued on really getting to know him. And Sukino was just kind of like, all right, I've seen somebody like him. He is essentially a terrible person. We need to keep an eye on him.
mm-hmm. Yeah, he's going to find loopholes in our game in order to come out on top.
Yep. Yeah. So the Maria's there only in game 3 to figure out what kind of makes Yuichi tick, you could say. I also think she was there to kind of help more balance the game.
Ultimately, that's how it started.
Yeah.
Was to make things a little bit more fair, because 2 versus 5 was just going to be too easy for the rival team to win.
Yep. Group K, I think is what it was. Yes, Group K.
Yeah. And actually, in hindsight right now, having Maria part of the team was super cheating, because one, you progressed through the game with your own group of friends and they were just given a random person, which is fine. It could have, in hindsight also, it could have been a good or a bad person.
Yep.
But we come out on top because Yuichi was asshole enough to put her at risk in order to come. In order to get this win. And it's only because she was there.
Yes.
And also only because she was a she.
Correct. For our listeners, if you don't remember, basically Yuichi and Maria were fleeing and Yuichi pushed Maria off a cliff.
Yeah.
And that was the only reason why Yuichi was able to get away from Shiniyama, I think is what his name was.
No, the K was
K. Okay, yeah.
He was elsewhere. We had Blonde Boy, who was
Okinawa.
Yep. Him and
Chisato.
Yeah.
No, was it Chisato? Wasn't Chisato the genius?
The genius was considered K.
Yes.
But then his brother was also probably, a close second.
That was Bonri.
Oh, the guy with the longer blonde hair was with him as well. I'm not seeing him on this character sheet right now, but I'm just going off of memory.
So Chisato was one, and he was the one that was hesitant of women.
Yep.
But helped
Onigawara
because essentially of their friendship. So that is why, because of their friendship, Yuichi was able to get away from essentially the two people guarding over them to make sure.
With food, so that he can get back to Tenji safely without being tracked.
Yes, and it was day 3, I think is what it was?
Yeah, because 3 days in the cage before the game even started. And then they were currently on day 3. Which also brings into question, so Tenji's gone, not 100%. I was going to say, he's gone 6 days without food and water.
So not 6, it's 3 days without water.
Most importantly, I was going to say, because there was that one bottle of water that they had for 3 days. I mean, it's still a tiny amount of water for 3 days, but it's not like he was completely dehydrated at that point. I mean, he was weak as hell.
Yes. Hallucinating. If I remember right, you can make it a good 72 hours without water, without any water.
Oh, is that?
Give or take your, I think it's health and all that other stuff, not exerting energy. There's a lot of criteria that goes involved, but I'm pretty sure you can get about 72 hours, maybe a little bit extra.
And plus, like you said, without using energy, he was just sitting in one place. For the exception of locating his hiding spot, that was the only movement he did, really.
And he might have had a little bit of excess water beforehand. We don't know if they used up that entire bottle of water in the 3 days.
Right.
I think they did, but I'm not 100% sure.
But we can also get to the extremes of he could have just been drinking his own pee.
Could have
survived on that. And we all know that you can go several days without food.
I think you can go a week, maybe 2 without food. You can go significantly longer without food than you can without water.
Right. And we're talking a couple days.
Shitty. Sucks.
This is going to suck ass, but technically you can make it.
It's not unrealistic.
Right.
So it's possible that this happened the way it did. And just goes more into Yuichi's strategic mind, where he had a plan for everything. Then anytime some minor thing happened, he had a backup to it. As soon as the rules were laid out, he had a plan as to how to win the game. And let's be honest, before the rules were even laid out, as soon as Maria was offered to be a part of the team, he had a plan to use her to win the game.
Right, because right from the beginning, his very first question was if it was a female or not.
Yep.
And because it was, he agreed to the deal.
Yep. So she was vital to the plan from the beginning. I'll be completely honest, there wasn't a whole lot to Game 3. You got more in the cave than anything else. You find out that Tenji had been betrayed by a group of friends because of Shiho, essentially.
Yeah. So let's just talk about the cave, because that's honestly the biggest plot building deal out of all of this.
Yep.
The hide and seek thing was fun.
Yep.
That was literally just for fun, but we get some actual backstory, some actual storyline from Tenji and Yuichi, like just having bro talk in the cave.
Yeah, they were talking for 3 days. You come to find out that Shiho essentially manipulated, according to Tenji, his two friends into betraying Tenji. Is that kind of what you took it as?
I would say more along the lines of
falling for her?
In the sense of falling, yeah, because like their main motivation was to win her over, and they use all of their money to like buy her attention.
And to get into debt.
Yeah, and so they got themselves into debt, and they made it even into a competition. Like the winner of our future company can be the one that takes Shiho's hand.
Yep.
And then Tenji's like, what the hell are you talking about? I thought we were doing this because, we're all going to be...
We're the best of friends.
We're the best friends, and we're all straight-minded, and we know what our goal is. And clearly, two-thirds of the goal was...
not.
to get some putang.
Yes, to get some Shiho. And then after the friends disappear, she makes some suspicious remarks.
That was very weird.
Yes.
Because she definitely like knew something was up.
Yep.
But at the same time, she was also innocent enough to be like, oh, well, I guess if they're not going to be here, then I guess you and I can just hang out.
Yeah, so she played the part very well. And then, of course, after Tenji's father died, Shiho's father made suspicious comments that he could never prove anything of. No, that was different. But it was Shiho's father was there to investigate, and the report didn't make sense to what Tenji knew of his father, is what it was. Because the autopsy showed it was a suicide, or I think it was a suicide.
That sounds familiar.
And Tenji was like, no, my father would never do that. It made no sense why he just would randomly decide to kill himself this day.
Right. And we found out that the death came shortly after Tenji revealed literally everything about Tomodachi Game and Shiho to his father. And then he went to go confront and be like, I'm an adult, I'm going to go take care of the situation.
Yeah, Tenji's father went to talk to Shiho's father, and then the next day was dead. Yeah, that's what the suspicious thing was. And of course, Shiho's father was like, oh no, there was nothing suspicious involved in this. And that is what brought the plot to get back at Shiho through Tenji. Essentially, revenge was all Tenji was concerned about.
Right. Yeah, he just wanted to get his answers and reveal Shiho's true colors. Not that we know for sure her true colors, but we're going off of Tenji's point of view.
Correct. And that's why Tenji stole the 2 million yen to get the 5 of them in Tomodachi Game and kind of trap Shiho into revealing her true self. So that was kind of the biggest thing that happened in the third game.
Yeah, because this whole time we were thinking that Tenji's just a piece of shit for whatever reason. And then we start to see like, oh, there is a reason why. It's not necessarily money. It's because
revenge for his father.
Right.
I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. I'm curious to see if Shiho is innocent or not.
Right.
Because Tenji's making some pretty strong accusations.
That's a brilliant phrase. That's great. Because, you start being on Tenji's side after this game, and Yuichi and Tenji, like, they made mention of that in like episode like 11 or 12. Like, you guys hated each other, and now you're buddy. What's going on?
Yep. And it makes sense as to why they are friends, because of, if it's true, then
maybe they got a similar goal at that point.
So the biggest thing is what I brought earlier about how the math of the money doesn't make sense. I think that was the biggest point on when Yuichi was like, okay, we can't be we have to be more than 10 million yen in debt. So Shiho has to be lying because the other two, let's be completely honest, Shibe wouldn't lie about the money. He doesn't care about money. He knows he'll get money back for anything that ever happens. And Yutari is too innocent to lie about the money, so it has to be Shiho. So that's what is going on with that one. And then the fact that Tenji didn't just give up right away essentially proved his resolve into getting revenge on Shiho.
Right. And that was Yuichi's plot on, yes, making him suffer, making him prove his worth, but at the same time, he needed to dig some dirt up on Group K.
Yep.
In order to find little holes to poke at in order to win.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. And then after that, so you get a break, and when Tenji and Yuichi come back, you find out that Shibe and Shiho are missing because they come back and all this debt and everything was kind of like, what the fuck happened? You also find out that Shibe's father has been murdered.
Which is interesting because he wasn't part of the Tomodachi game. Why was he murdered? So
Shibe's father was murdered because of Shibe trying to get the 2 million yen back for the class trip. And I mean, 2 million yen is like $7,500, so it's a bunch of money. And he can't get that money from his father without explaining to his father why he needs the money. So then he spilled Tomodachi Game to his father, and that is why his father was killed.
Is that a manga thing?
Probably.
Okay, I was gonna say, because I don't remember that at all in the anime. Because all we know is...
I'm pretty sure they go over it in the anime, but it's like...
It might have been super quick at that point.
Like a 30-second snippet of episode.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it would make more sense, too. Much like Tenji trying to share with his father.
Yep. So because Shibe is explaining to the class that, hey, we didn't steal the money. 2 million yen is nothing. I'll get it from my father. Just give me until tomorrow. And then, of course, tomorrow comes and Shibe couldn't get the money because, again, 2 million yen is a good amount of money, even for people who have money. Yeah, so then he disappeared, and you had Shiho disappearing the next day because of... They kind of really didn't go into it. Basically,
I was going to say, she just straight up disappeared.
She was also being accused of stealing money or stealing the 2 million yen because it was suspicious that she wanted the money in cash instead of as a bank transfer.
When was that brought up?
It was brought up by that one chick, the short hair blonde or brunette with glasses. She brings it up, but it was before when they were doing a flashback when Yutari was talking about them disappearing.
Okay.
Very, very minute parts. So then after that conversation, you have Yuichi telling Yutari that, I don't really need you, get away. Basically, he was trying to distance himself from Yutari to protect her. That's all I took that as.
That's how I took it too.
But of course, that backfires because we have the fourth game, which we find out is not actually a part of Tomodachi Game, where what was the game called? Basically, it was if she does something, she gets less pain than if you do it.
Yeah, I don't think they came up with a real name, but whatever the consequence was, the male Yuichi had to do 3 times the payment.
Yep. So Yuichi goes to this warehouse and was like, hey, let Yutari go.
Because she got kidnapped.
Yep, she gets kidnapped. Come to find out that, nope, not happening. She is a part of this quote-unquote game. And the first one...
was punches.
Yep.
Punches by some big muscular dude who can mess up a face.
Yep. Yutari says no, and Yuichi was like, nope, I'm going to do it. Gets the 3 punches to the, what is it, 1 punch to the gut and 2 punches to the face or something like that. He gets punched 3 times.
Yeah, he takes some.
The
second beating.
The second one was Yutari gets 1 nail pulled out of her fingernail, which would be miserable.
Right?
Or,
could not imagine that. Something so simple, but yet so fucking painful.
No. I'm getting just like, just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yuichi gets 3 fingernails ripped out.
And they did that one really quick. Like, they animated that little scene quick. Like, they didn't, like, for something that wanted to animate pain or anything like that, like, it was rip. It was...
That's how the manga was, too.
Yeah.
They did not dwell on it. But it was supposed to be a fucked up thing. So the whole purpose of the game and manga show is not necessarily like just the grossness of the punishments. It's the psychological torture that you're dealing with.
Right. But I mean, me as a viewer, I'm thinking like from the movie Saw, where like if you're pulling some fingernails, especially 3 of them, I was expecting like a minute of yelling, torturous things.
No,
just screams.
Yuichi's
he's a tough guy.
He's got some screws loose. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's very true.
So he gets his three nails ripped out. And then the third game was...
Or the third round.
Third round, excuse me. Was Yutari had to dance around naked for... I don't think they even said how long. She just had to dance naked in front of everybody. Or Yuichi had to get stabbed in the hand 3 times.
Yeah, something like that.
So, again, I cannot blame Yutari for saying no. Which the kidnapper does more psychological tormenting on Yutari, basically making her feel bad for not being willing to do this stuff, which you can't blame her for not.
Right.
And Yuichi ends up getting stabbed 3 times in the hand.
Yeah, so in the end, Yuichi ends up taking like all of the punishments.
Yep. But at the last game that happens is actually from Yuichi against this guy, and it's a game of rock, paper, scissors. Mm-hmm. And he mind fucks the kidnapper into thinking that he can only do can only do, rock or paper? Yep. And basically the whole premise of the show, or the whole premise of that, was to show that Yuichi is smarter and can mind fuck anybody.
Right.
Because the whole premise of the kidnapper was the only reason why he's the leader is because he was...
he had guts. He
wouldn't essentially betray his fellow comrades. Mm-hmm. And then I think he was smarter than everybody else.
Right. So yeah, choosing the wrong weapon to throw out was not being smart.
Yep. Betraying his friends by being like, oh, I'm getting all of my fingers chopped off and you're only going to get 1 was 2. And the third one was he was a coward because he was essentially giving up on he would rather have somebody else endure the pain than himself.
Right.
So that by one little game, he was able to prove how much of a useless leader this guy was.
Exactly.
So useless, I don't even remember his name.
Yeah. And it really doesn't, well, at least as of right now, it doesn't matter.
No, I have a feeling it doesn't. It truly doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Right.
But we come to find out that the game was not sanctioned by Tomodachi Game, and that this gang of individuals just happen to know about Tomodachi Game. Do you think that Shiho's father put him up to it?
Ooh, that's interesting.
Because the phrasing that the guy used was the same phrasing that Yuichi used against her father.
Which was what?
Basically about you gotta come at me because I've got nothing to live for, kind of like I've got nobody that cares about me, so you have to attack me instead of attacking my family.
Okay.
So that's why I think it was her father that puts this gang up for the Tomodachi Game.
Okay.
Which would make sense as to, like, it kind of just puts everybody together. It's like, all right, Shiho and her family / father knows about the game already, and they're using it to manipulate certain things in certain things in life.
Sure.
So I think it was Shiho's father that put this gang up to kidnapping Yutari and playing this fake game.
Yeah, that could be something.
But then you find out that the Tomodachi Game administrators arrest essentially everybody in the gang for impersonating the Tomodachi Game. Mm-hmm. And excuse me, I forgot that we didn't even talk about Shibe getting accused of killing his father.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a big one, especially what's going to come out of season 2, because he's going to be kind of out of the picture and useless, and they're not going to be able to confront him on a lot of information that needs to get spread. Like, they can't just necessarily work together during these future games.
Yep. I will say that leads up to the next game,
which was the cliffhanger, which is going to be the Friend Sin Trial.
Yes, the Friend Sin Trial, which I'm going to say it right now, it all revolves around Shibe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's a trial, so now we gotta somehow make him become innocent in this and somehow gain a player back so that they can finish off all of the Tomodachi Game.
And we gotta figure out what's going on with Shiho. Like, where is she at right now?
Right? Yeah, because this bitch disappeared somewhere.
Yes, but do you want to talk about anything on the fake Game 4 or not really?
Nah, we flushed that out pretty good.
Yeah,
there's some smarts in it, so it was fun.
It was more drama-filled stuff. You feel bad for Yuichi, you feel bad for Yutari for what she has to deal with, but other than that, there's not a whole lot to it. You just kind of see a more menacing Yuichi, and other than that, like, it was just kind of good, suspenseful visualization, and that's really about it.
Well, the last thing I could throw in is Tenji being a good boy and notifying the higher-ups that this was a fake and got everybody taken care of to begin with. So
that's true, because Tenji knew how to contact them. So yes, it's a very good point. Thank you.
Other than that, you want to speculate what we could expect out of season 2?
Yeah, I will talk about what I can without spoiling anything.
Okay. So we know that there's a couple games left.
Yes.
And some debts have to be, what we would assume, be neutralized so that nobody owes anything in the final. And maybe in the end, all of our crew will remain friends. Kind of hard to see that right now, but this is all about friendship, Tomodachi.
Yes.
I can't imagine. According to this page I'm on, we have 3 more games left.
Ooh, okay.
So that's what's going to be season 2, I would assume.
Ooh, okay. Maybe. Or season 2 kind of plays like 2 games and then leaves off on a cliffhanger for game 3. Maybe. I don't know.
There's going to be I would like to imagine that a nice chunk of season 2 is going to be on Yuichi's background.
Okay.
We know he's murdered people. We don't know why.
We know he's murdered multiple people at that. And like you said, we have absolutely no idea why.
I want to know more about this father figure who's pushing money.
Yep.
I would like to assume that the murder is coming from something along his half of the parental deal.
Could be. It could have been what happened prior to, like he had a psychological break and killed off his whole family, and then just he could have just woken up from this trance and had no idea what was going on, kind of like Dexter, where he just kind of woke up in blood.
Oh, I never watched that series.
Okay.
I've watched like bits and pieces here and there, but like I got the premise, but not like
could have
anything about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of grasping at straws at this point. I have no idea. It'll be interesting to find out more about that. We obviously have game number 4 that we have to get through. Don't know how long that's going to take us. I want to know more about Shiho, like what the fuck is going on with her.
Right.
Is she good and her dad is evil kind of thing? Or are they both evil? I don't know. It'll be very interesting to find out what's going on with all that.
Yeah, the anime is pointing us at she's bad, so let's see if she can redeem herself.
Yes, I would agree. And Shibe obviously didn't kill his father. Like,
right.
So
not a chance.
How do they get out of that? Does Tenji get his revenge? Like, there's so many things that need to happen. We want to know about that I can't can't wait to see what happens. I mean, does Shiho actually like Yuichi? That's another thing.
Right. Or is that all just apply just to advance and put things in her favor, make her seem less incriminating?
Maybe. Or is that attraction she has for Yuichi going to make her slip up somehow?
I can see that one more probable.
Or was this all just a ploy because she knew who Yuichi was, as in like his past self, and she's trying to get to know all the details, like what's going on? So I really can't wait to find out more about this show and this series.
Yeah, I agree. I'm interested to see how this concludes.
Yeah, it probably one of my more favorite psychological thriller type shows. It was very well done. The pace, I really enjoyed the pacing. Like, they didn't take too long on any of the games. It was only a few episodes per game.
Right. Like, if this was extended to a 24 episode kind of thing,
yeah, it'd just be excessive.
That'd be way too much talking, way too much boring stuff happening. So
yep,
putting this into a 12 episode series was definitely the best bet.
Yeah, I agree. From what I'm reading, there's nothing announced as far as season 2 is concerned. Yes, so I'm not seeing anything as far as confirmation of season 2 for Tomodachi Game, and hopefully we will get something soon. I will say this came out 2022, so it's not like it's all that old. Last year really isn't that far away. Yeah, I'm really glad that I watched this. I thought this was going to be more similar to some other animes. I'm only going by the thumbnail and the name, so I can't. So I will say I definitely judged a book by its cover on this one. What about you?
Well, you're the one that suggested this one, so I just took your word for it. That it was a relatively new anime, so hopefully a lot of people already watched this and they can relate enough. Yep. So I was good with that one, just on face.
Yep. I know you had started. You started Squid Game?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I started this anime, I had not watched Squid Game prior, and Squid Game came out in like 21. Yep. So I had always been meaning to watch it. But then the way this show started, where everybody had debts and they needed to play games, I'm like, I wonder if this is like Squid Games. Yeah. So after I watched this, I watched Squid Game, and it's really not too much to compare. No. Okay. Squid Games is about a bunch of people who have massive amount of debts that they have to pay off, and the winner at the end gets massively rich. Okay. So yeah, a bunch of games are played, but in Squid Games, your life is on the line. This one, your friendship is on the line. So
people are dying in this one.
I guess so, yeah.
But yeah, you're in, unlike Squid Games where you're doing it to eliminate your own debt, in Tomodachi Game, you're doing it to eliminate your friend's debt, which then turns into your own debt.
Right. So you kind of get dragged into it, so it's your own personal problem at that point.
Yep, exactly. I had thought this was going to be something kind of similar to Darwin's Game, which actually did come out around the same time. Not even close. Completely different. You and I had already covered Darwin's Game. Love Darwin's Game, but not the same. Right. Not even close. So, yeah, I'm definitely glad I suggested this kind of on a whim. I was like, this seems interesting. I know people had talked about it on online, saying it was pretty good. So I was like, let's give it a chance.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
But I'm glad I gave it a chance. It's very good. It's very well done. Hopefully we'll get a season 2. Hopefully.
I like to imagine so.
But I kind of feel like that covers everything as far as the anime for Tomodachi Game. Do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we're pretty good on the anime.
All right.
NANI?!
I will say the manga mentions it's going to be insanely short, like less than 1 page short. The only real difference between the anime and the manga is Manabu explains the entire game before they get started. So every game that they play, he'll explain all of the rules.
Okay, because I guess now this brings up one thing that I forgot to mention in game 3 with hide and seek, where yes, there is no violence that you can portray on someone. Yep. But then like towards the end of the game, it was more focused on you can't put violence on the other team, but you can put violence on your own team.
Yeah, so he makes mentions where it's like you cannot commit acts of violence against the other team. Those were essentially his words.
Okay, but in the anime, it was
you cannot
super vague. It was just violence.
Yeah.
And then when I re-listened to it, I did confirm that it was that vagueness, and it wasn't particularly on like given the exception for your own teammates.
Yeah, then in like game 2 where they talk about they just happen to know the rules about lying. Mm-hmm. When Manabu is explaining the rules, they ask, it's like, all right, so what happens if you lie? Like that was directly asked by one of them. I want to say it was Yutari. She was like, all right, so what happens if we lie? It's like, oh, well, if you lie, you get punished by going one space above the person who's the furthest forward.
Okay.
So is that really a big difference? No, but it's something that sticks out after you watch it and read it. You're like, okay, well, there's certain rules and it's like, well, how did they know that was a rule? Mm-hmm. But other than that, like, yeah, all right, cool. We didn't get to see all of the instructions getting handed out to us. Cool. Shucks.
Right.
Like as an anime viewer, I don't really care.
Right.
To be completely honest, I'm not missing out on anything. So I'm not really all that concerned. And that's, to be completely honest, that's really the only difference between the anime and the manga is that. It followed almost to a T everything that happened in the manga happened in the anime.
Yeah.
So it was very well done as far as sticking with the manga is concerned. For anybody who wants to continue where season 1 left off, I would suggest to start on chapter 26. That chapter does go into game number 4, the true game number 4. But the friend, was it the friends?
Friend hide and seek?
No, game number 4. So that's friend
sin trial.
Friend sin trial, yes. So the trial for Shibe's innocence, essentially, is what what that game is. Mm-hmm. Can't wait to see more. Hopefully, I can continue reading this alongside with the anime. But as of right now, as far as season 1 is concerned, that's it. That's, like I said, there's not a whole lot.
That close.
Some minute things, as I had mentioned earlier, where Tenji and Yuichi are talking about the debt, being like, all right,
just number talk.
X plus Y does not equal Z kind of thing. And they go into that a little bit more. But I mean, that's very minute stuff, is the changes between the two. Mm-hmm. So I think they did an amazing job between the manga and the anime. And I can't wait to continue reading. I did continue reading. I will say the chapters are long. We're talking anywhere from 30-ish pages to almost 60 pages per chapter. So significantly longer than a lot of anime are concerned. Mm. But I guess if that's how you want to stay true to the manga, that's what you got to do, right?
Right.
So
one thing I forgot to mention was like my favorite LOL moment.
Yes.
Was when Shibe got discovered about his father in game 2 and he was like sulking on the ground.
Yes.
And then Manabu comes up and like takes a selfie of himself with Shibe crying in the background. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yes, that part was very funny. Another funny one was Manabu was like laying on a cot when they were talking about how he's gonna be involved, and he's like just like, nope, I'm gonna just lay right here the whole time.
Right.
So I thought that was very funny. But I definitely enjoyed this show, and I can't wait to continue.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that's going to conclude today's episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Anime Lounge podcast. We are brought to you by The Anime Show. Find them on Facebook and Instagram. They cover a lot of anime news, what's coming, what everybody's talking about. Great source of information to follow. Also, if you want some anime merch, carry on over to Right Stuff Anime. They can also be found on The Anime Show, so go find them there, and also in our description, so that'll be some easy access. Also, please make sure to give us a like and subscribe to everywhere that you're listening to us on, because that helps us a lot, and we would like to reach more people. And then we'll see you guys next time.
Have a good one. killed off his whole family and then just kind of like woke up in a trance-like state. Trance-like state. So he could have just woken up from this trance-like state. Fuck.